Hello. Hello, happy Tuesday. I will give it just a minute, let people join in. Hello, how are you? All day, every 3-day weekend, I always get thrown off. I thought it was Monday until just about an hour ago. I realized, yes, it is in fact Tuesday. Adjust my lighting. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'll get started in just a moment. If you've been to a few of my lives before, I've broken out my fart book. It actually it's just a gag book, and it's in my desk. I have it in my desk and in a little shelf. And I it fell out last night, and I just forgot to put it back. So it was just lying on the floor. And today I'm getting in my chair and I accidentally stepped on it, and it made a really loud noise. I was like, "What the heck is that?" It was the fart book that was just hanging out on the floor. Hello, hello. Sansonia. Yes, Eva is sleeping. I just pulled her in from outside. She likes to hang out on the table. There's like a little table outside that she hangs out on. Hello, Kevin. Happy Tuesday. Yes, she's sleeping. She now that it's summertime and it's hot, she wants to be outside constantly. Happy Tuesday. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. I There are some updates. If you guys remember, we talked about the NCAA a lot and the swimmer named Leah Thompson. So there's a lot of updates regarding this story, and I wanted to talk about that for a little bit, and talk about some new information about the shooter in Texas that's pretty disturbing, a little bit about Joe Biden and what he's going to do about gun control, and woke Batman. So we'll get into all that, mostly about the gun situation, about what happened in Texas, and all of these updates with Leah Thomas. So if you remember, um, Leah Thomas is the transgender swimmer. Male to female, that according to the was a swimmer at UPenn, so University of Pennsylvania, and was able to swim on the women's swim team, which upset a lot of women on the team. But a lot of them were scared to come out and say things. Obviously, we know why. And there were a few protests. Hi. Um, So we are going to talk about that and some of the updates with this story. There was a huge controversy. So according to the NCAA, you only needed, if you were a male transitioning to a female, you didn't have to have surgery or anything like that. All you needed to do was prove that you were on a testosterone suppressant for about a year, which I believe Leah was. And an important thing to remember about Leah also used to swim for the male team. And when Leah swam with the males, I believe Leah was placed like 460. It was in the 400s. But in the female team, Leah placed basically number one and started taking all of these records away from women. So clearly, this caused a lot of controversy, but it appeared that the school and the NCAA was not going to back down. Well, recently, some doctors came out, and I will read you what they found. So it says here, and then I have an interview by Leah and also some of Leah's swim teammates. So it says Michael Joyner, a Mayo Clinic doctor, and prominent physiologist Ross Tucker have both confirmed from a scientific standpoint that a biological male swimmer, Leah Thomas, absolutely does have a biological edge over teammates and competitors. Both experts have confirmed that testosterone is a deciding factor in Thomas's advantage and that no amount of hormone therapy can properly mitigate that to any relevant extent. So this is news because we're told us that all these suppressants will put Leah on an even playing field. According to the Daily Mail, even though Thomas took testosterone suppressants, which are required by the NCAA, she still has an unfair advantage over the biological females Leah swims against. There are social aspects to sport, but physiology and biology underpin it. Testosterone is the 800-pound gorilla, mentioned Joyner during an interview. Thomas commented on the issue as well, expressing wishes to just be able to be allowed to swim. Leah says, I am a woman just like anyone else on the team. I've always viewed myself just as a swimmer. It's what I've done for so long. It's what I love. I get into the water every day and do my best. However, many other people detract from Thomas's opinion. Her teammates have gone on record more than once, not only saying that they consider the situation to be unjust and unfair, but also that many other teammates feel the same way but are afraid to speak out on the issue. At one point, teammates have even complained because Thomas would blatantly disrobe in front of them at times. Ooh, this is from the Post. This is from the Post Millennial. At times visibly aroused. Oh, that's bad. Tennis legend and many-time champion Martina Navratilova, when interviewed, also stated, I played against taller women, I played against stronger women, and I beat them all. But if I faced a male and the equivalent of Leah at tennis, that's biology. I would have had no shot and I would have been livid. Also, I want to point out that even a few years ago, it was the Williams sisters. Actually, one of the Williams sisters was on a talk show saying that, look, I might be really great as a female, but if I was playing against males, you wouldn't even know who I am. And I don't view the Williams sisters as people that are politically right at all. Okay, so given that this was an interview that actually posted today on Good Morning America. So this is Leah Thomas being interviewed by Good Morning America.
There are some who look at the data. Thomas started her senior year on the women's team, but her success in the water was met with outrage leading up to the NCAA championships. Her critics say she jumped in the rankings between the men's and the women's team. And there are some who look at the data and suggest that you're enjoying a competitive advantage. What do you say to that?
There's a lot of factors that go into a race and how well you do. And the biggest change for me is that I'm happy. And sophomore year, where I had my best times competing with the men, I was miserable. And so having that be lifted is incredibly relieving and allows me to put my all into training, into racing. Trans people don't transition for athletics. We transition.
Okay, so that was basically the gist of it, and it's important to say, like, I don't judge anyone. You live how you want to live, like, live and let live, whatever it is that makes you happy. Life is so short. Do what makes you happy. Dress how it makes you happy. But when it starts to put an unfair advantage on other people, and even more concerning, the locker room situation, which I'll get into a little bit more in just a second. But keep in mind what Leah said. So the question was asked about the fairness. And instead of talking about the fairness, Leah says, the biggest change for me is that I'm happy. So the question was asked about the fairness for everyone else because you suck at swimming. So I thought you were talking to me. I do suck at swimming. The question was asked about the fairness for everyone else, and Leah immediately said, I'm the happiest. The biggest change for me is that I'm happy. And this just goes to show you sort of, I hate to say it, but who this person is, because there's a lot of people who happen to be trans who say, no, this is not okay. I would never compete against biological women in sports. That's an area, like, I understand that I have an unfair advantage. And now you have these two doctors, one of them from the Mayo Clinic, saying, no, the advantage is still there. It doesn't matter how much testosterone suppressant you take, there will still be an advantage. And you can even hear in the voice, that was a very low, that sounds like a man talking. That doesn't sound like a woman. Well, the interesting thing is, it's sort of a coincidence that this interview came out today, and that the interview with the doctors came out yesterday. Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire is releasing a film called What is a Woman, where he tackles this very subject. I haven't seen it yet. It comes out tomorrow, I think, on the Daily Wire. I haven't seen it, but there was a write up on the Daily Wire where they actually went and interviewed some of Leah's teammates. So I wanted to read you a little bit of that. It's really interesting. Let me pull that up. So, a female on the University of Pennsylvania's women's swim team told best-selling author and podcast host Matt Walsh what it's really like having female identifying Leah Thomas, who is biologically male, permitted to join the team and dominate the Ivy League. The UPenn swimmer, who asked to have her identity shielded out of fear of retribution, spoke exclusively to Walsh for his highly anticipated documentary. Obviously, they're plugging the documentary. What is a Woman? The doc, which challenges radical gender identity, will be able to stream exclusively on the Daily Wire tomorrow at 8 p.m. There are a lot of things we couldn't talk about that was concerning, the swimmer told Walsh. The anonymous athlete explained that even basic concerns about the locker room were not brought up. If they were, she said, it was clear you'd be smeared as phobic. Notably, Thomas, who still has a penis, a female penis, and has not had surgery to remove it and dates females, according to teammates. If you even brought up concerns about it, you were phobic. If you even bring up the fact that Leah's swimming might not be fair, you're immediately shut down and called a hateful person or a phobic. But there's never any conversation. The coach, but Walsh asked. So Matt Walsh asked her, but there was never any conversation. The coach didn't sit down with anyone and acknowledge what everyone was upset about. So the swimmer says, so Penn actually brought in people high up in the athletic department to talk to us. He brought in someone from the LGBTQ center. They brought in someone from psychological services, the swimmer said. So you're upset, you need some support, and what's happening to you, you need psychological help. So basically, when these girls were complaining about what was going on, they were telling them to get psychological help, or referring to them to the school psychologist. The higher ups told the swimmers in no uncertain terms, Leah's swimming is non-negotiable. They've made it pretty clear, if you speak up about it, your life will be over in some way. You'll be blasted all over the internet as a phobe, and you'll never be able to get a job, the teammate told Walsh. Walsh has said in his documentary that his documentary really exposes the core of gender ideology, that it is hollow. He said, I sat out experts in every field in the gender theory world: doctors, therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, politicians, activists, and transgender people themselves. And I put the question to them directly. I found, and you'll see in the film, their arguments collapsed, not with hammer blows or hard push, but with simple questions, because the core of gender ideology is hollow. You never really hear. That's why the whole documentary that Matt Walsh made, and there's even an activist in the UK, and her whole thing is just defining what a woman is. And that's what's in the movie, because when you ask that question, you'll get vague answers, they'll beat around the bush. No one can actually tell you that. Notice there's no trans men competing. Well, I found it interesting too, because obviously I don't want to speculate what's going on um, in Leah Thomas's head, but it was really interesting. If you notice, Leah has said in many different ways, I love swimming. Swimming is everything to me. It's absolutely everything, in other words. And you notice in that interview that we just played from Good Morning America, uh, Leah says, when I was swimming with the men, I wasn't, I was swimming my best times. I wasn't happy. When I'm swimming with the females, I'm happy. Is that because you're now winning with the females and you're getting recognition with the females and you're getting all this attention with the females? Your mind has to wonder. Again, I don't know what's in Leah's mind. I'm not speculating, but you have to wonder. And especially when someone's saying swimming is everything to me, and this individual still dates females. Well, they're actually, Average Zoom just said they wouldn't be able to compete with females. There actually was an individual, I think it's the name is Isaac, that competed in in the same competition as Leah, but Isaac is from another school. But Isaac is a um, woman to male trans, but still swam with the females. So both ways, the logic doesn't really work. If you're saying, if this is what I identify as, and I'm, taking what I need to take, if that's your logic, and you have a female to male and a male to female on the same, competing both with biological females, doesn't that logic fall apart? That to me doesn't make sense. And that right there should prove, okay, something's not off, or something is off, I mean. I never really heard this talked about. Oh, it was pretty big for a while, Leah Thomas. And when all you need are mere eyes to see that this is not fair. And what's so sad is, just a few years ago we were all about women's rights. Meet this, and the 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 locker room part does not get talked about. As not, I cannot get over the locker room part. And honestly, if I were in Leah's position, I might be a little shy, because I want to be a female. I might not be comfortable with that part. So I might want to go somewhere separate and change, or at least be cognizant of the fact that it might make women uncomfortable. But for me, the bathroom part, the locker room part, and being exposed in front of all those women when they don't want to be, they don't, against their will, essentially, and all of a sudden now that's okay, and we just came out of the whole Me Too era. What? That I can't I that is one part of this I can't wrap my head around, and that is one part of it where I don't know why everyone is all up in arms. Where are the Me Tooers now? Yes, and Leah still dates women, which, there are lesbians out there. They date women, but it is that this is a whole different thing. Somebody said in the comments, I would be happy too if I went from losing all my matches to being a national champion. Of course. You Anyway, will anyone be watching that? I wasn't sure if I was going to, but now I know that I might now. It's just pretty it's quite infuriating actually, especially the locker room aspect. And the school doesn't have the back of the girls who are complaining they're in fact being silenced. Oh, the clown world. Oh, we got the jury clears former Clinton attorney Michael Sussman of lying to FBI. A Washington, D.C. jury acquitted former Clinton campaign attorney Michael Sussman of lying to the FBI on Tuesday in the first legal test of special counsel John Durham's investigation into the origin of the Trump Russia collusion conspiracy theory. Sussman was charged with lying to the FBI during a September 2016 meeting with former FBI General Counsel James Baker. Sussman pleaded not guilty to the charges, arguing that he never lied to the FBI. Even if he did, the lie did not impact the FBI's operation at all. Durham alleged in Sussman's charging documents that the cybersecurity attorney intentionally misrepresented him to gain an audience with Baker. Sussman then told FBI lawyer that he was coming to the bureau as a good citizen when in reality, Sussman was passing shaky opposition research on behalf of his clients, the Clinton campaign, and the tech executive Rodney, oh God, Joffe. Sussman gave Baker later debunked evidence of the secret back channel between Trump Organization and Russia's Alpha Bank. The FBI agents tasked with looking into the matter dismissed the data and Sussman's claims within the matter days of investigating the probe. Trump actually wonder who paid off. Well, it's really interesting because hold on. So here's a take on this. So it's pretty interesting that the assessment trial has an Obama-appointed judge, 3 Hillary donors, 1 AOC donor, and a juror whose daughter is on the rowing team with the Sussman daughter. What is the handwriting on the wall? Can't make this crap up, geez. So there you have it. Oh, there we go. Trump made a statement. Hold on. See if I can get it for you. All right, this is what Trump said about it. Of course, our legal system is corrupt. Our judges and justices are highly partisan, compromised, or just plain scared. Our borders are open. Our elections are rigged. Inflation is rampant. Gas prices and food prices are through the roof. Our military leadership is woke, and our country is going to hell. And Michael Sussman is not guilty. How is everyone else doing? Enjoy your day. That's actually pretty funny. I'm going to read it one more time. Our legal system is corrupt. Our judges and justices are highly partisan, compromised, or just plain scared. Our borders are open. Our elections are rigged. Inflation is rampant. Gas prices and food costs are through the roof. Our military leadership is woke. Our country is going to hell, and Michael Sussman is not guilty. How's everything else doing? Enjoy your day. Love, thank you for coming out politically. I'm still figuring out my job. I don't want my boosters. I work in your industry also. Incredibly sad. Yeah. Um, I yeah, I mean, yeah, just stay strong and you have to figure it out on your own time. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. You have to figure it out on your own time and do it when it's appropriate for you and know that the risk you're taking and be okay with that. I even had family members who were mad at me or didn't want to talk to me. And that was very hurtful because if you meet me, if you meet me in person or if you know me, I am the nicest, I'm the most agreeable person. I can be tough when I have to, but generally, I'm just the nicest, most agreeable person. I do what I'm supposed to. I do what I'm told. I'm really great to work with and all of these things. So, feeling like I might get in trouble at any second because I didn't really I still audition. And I know very well that someone can, Google me on the internet and not like my beliefs. It was so bizarre to me to have beliefs that other people deemed as wrong. When in actuality, I think I've always believed the same thing. I really have common sense politics. That's it, logical and common sense politics. And I used to work in human services, and I used to work with very, sensitive cases and people with sensitive backstories. So I understand. That job taught me that you can't be emotional when you're working with people or when you're thinking about policies or things like that. You have to be logical. It's very easy to get emotional about things. And so that was always my route, just logical, common sense politics. And then the left went crazy. And then they started to seem like bullies to me. And my heart just says it's wrong forcing people to do something. Yeah, I got my vaccine, but I actually got it. The only reason I got it was because I was coming home and I was taking care of family. But it would feel I do remember I couldn't come back in time, but I had a quick acting job right when I came here over a year ago. And I do remember they had to see my vaccine card. I had to bring that. No, I had to. This is why I couldn't take the job. Now I remember it's coming back to me. I had to fly out 2 days prior to get a clear test. And then I had to show them my vaccine to be able to work on the project. But that's why I couldn't come back because usually you have over 24 hours notice, even if you book a big job or like a quick job, it was just a small job. It wasn't a big deal. Um, it would have been just for the money, but I would have had to show a negative test 2 days before and then my vaccine card. So I understand that. It is odd to have to do things you don't want to do. And I actually have a place that I go to just to work part time in Virginia to sort of get out of the house. And I'm really lucky that they're actually cool people. I mean, I have mine, so it's not a big deal, but that wasn't a requirement there. And they're awesome people. One of my some of my coworkers actually watch my videos. It's crazy how the more conservative of an area I live in, the more just open and accepting people are, even the people that don't agree with me. And maybe that is because they're around other conservatives. It's a southern area. There's a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives. You see the "Let's Go Brandon" and Trump signs and "F Biden" everywhere. But I honestly, I just had an epiphany. Sorry, I just went off in a rant. Um, I I think what it is I think that when you live in Hollywood or like New York City or Seattle or Portland or one of those really lefty areas, you are not around conservatives or Republicans, or the ones that you are around, they will never say it out loud. They'll keep quiet. I do think there's a lot of conservatives in Hollywood, but I just think they keep quiet. They don't talk, they don't tell anyone. What I think it is, I think the reason Oh, okay, good. I think the reason so I meet a lot of like really young people around here that are super liberal, but when they find out I'm a conservative, they don't care. Whereas in Hollywood, if people were to find out I was a conservative, well, and everyone knows now, and trust me, I got crap for it. Um, there, like people get really upset and really offended and they look at you crazy. And I think that's because when you're in Hollywood or like one of these cities, one of these really liberal cities, you only hang out with other liberals. You only hang out with other lefties, and the ones that are conservative, they'll be quiet. So you have this caricature in your mind that the media created about what a Republican is or what a conservative is. And you react to that caricature, not the actual real person. I mean, I had friends that I hadn't seen in a while. Like Um, and at the beginning of my journey, I voted Democrat up until 2020. I didn't vote in 2016, but if I did, I would have voted for Hillary. And the reason I didn't vote, I was just tired of politics at that point in time. And I think the election of Donald Trump got me a little invigorated. I was like, what's going on here? But anyway, I would discover people like Ben Shapiro, and I would tell my friend, like, oh, he said something interesting here, or this is really interesting, or why are all these women marching? I don't understand what they're doing. And if I would mention like a Ben Shapiro or someone, a conservative commentator, she would look at me like I just like killed a puppy. And she'd be like, "Oh my, you you can't listen to him. Like he's a what is she said he's the alt-right or something." And I'm like, "Whoa." It's really sad because this was someone that I knew my whole life. And I'm like, you should know my heart. If I'm into something, or if I say, like, this is interesting, wouldn't your first thought be like, well, I've always heard this about him. Like, why do you like him? Or what did he say? Instead of automatically judging me. And that's what really, really hurt. And I do have like empathy for people on the left because I was brainwashed at one point too. But also, I the reason I am the way that I am now is because the people that voted for Trump, the people that I was told were the bad people, when I actually asked them, these were people that I knew. These were people that I knew weren't bad. The media is not going to tell me you're bad. And I remember I sat down and asked a family member one day, I was like, why did you vote for Trump? And what they said to me actually made sense. You're saying all the things I've been saying for months. Facts don't care about your feelings. But it is hurtful because my first thought, if I have a friend that I've known for a long time, I know that person's heart. And my first thing would be to just ask them why and lead with curiosity and just say, okay, we just don't agree on this one thing. But the media has brainwashed these people and they're just in a big echo chamber with everyone that thinks the exact same way they do. I really do think that's why liberals have such a warped idea of what a conservative is and what conservatives believe. Deplorable unite. Big hugs. Thank you. Um, but no, if you meet a liberal like here, they're pretty chill. If you meet a someone that's super liberal in Hollywood, they are very hostile. And it's so crazy too because like being like where I am right now is mostly like conservative or Republican or it's just country. And everyone here, and so the media tells you it's the conservatives that are bad and it's the conservatives that are the evil ones and they don't like freedom and democracy and all of that. Okay, well, I lived in West Hollywood and now I've been here in small town Virginia. And let me tell you something. The people here are a lot nicer, a lot more accepting. They care about you more than the people in West Hollywood who are supposed to be the liberal tolerant ones. There are some great people in West Hollywood, don't get me wrong. There are great people in every city, but as a whole, especially being there when we were on the lockdown, there was just like a thickness of contention and just everyone was on edge. Where here everyone was just chill. Glenn said, that's why I'm glad all my friends from 1982, you're on the left and right, and everyone just gets along and respects each other. That's how it should be. It should be. Who cares what your political affiliation is? And I do, again, like I have, I don't know the word, like in a way, I understand why they think that way, but I also don't understand why they think that way because I do think that our media really polarizes people and it brainwashes people. But it's like just question. I think I've told this story before about I lived in West Hollywood. I lived in Protest Central during all the George Floyd protests and riots. And I remember Protest Central, and one day it was like a Saturday, or we had weeks of protests. We had a 1 p.m. curfew for, I can't remember how long. We had the National Guard come out. They were all over my neighborhood. We had a 1 p.m. curfew because they were afraid the riots were going to break out again. And I remember one day there was a protest, and it was peaceful. It was just like a smaller protest. I was lectured and told that our local media in Hollywood, Los Angeles was the truth because their professionalism, because of their experience. Yeah, they don't know. They hang out in a bubble of people that all think the way that they do. So yes, they might be like well traveled or experienced in certain areas, but when it comes to politics, they don't, and I don't blame them. That's not their job to know politics. Um, but I remember one day there was a protest that spilled out into my residential street, and I saw a girl, and she was protesting for George Floyd, and she had a sign, and her sign said she was asleep in her bed. So she was referring to Breonna Taylor, who a lot of people thought right off the bat was asleep in her bed when the cops intervened. But at that point, it had been known for months that Breonna Taylor was not asleep in her bed when this happened. She was standing in the hallway. And I just thought to myself, like, again, I have compassion for all of these people. And I, just because we disagree on something doesn't mean that I think less of them. But what I can't stay, the thought in my head, and this is the part that I don't respect. It's not that I don't respect that you are maybe part of a movement that I don't like, or it's not that I don't respect that we think differently politically. But what is hard for me to respect is the fact that you care so much about this issue that you are outside in the middle of, a lockdown. You made a sign. So you bought the materials, you made a sign, you got dressed, you got in your car, you went to an area in the hot sun. It was summertime, and you walked around and protested all day with this sign, and you don't even know the basic facts of what you're protesting. This information had been available for months. When I care about something, I'm reading everything about the thing. I want to know what happened. I want to know why it happened. I want to know all the details about it. I talk about it with other people. But I saw a lot of that over the summer. A lot of the people that support these causes, they don't even know what they're supporting. It's too hot to protest. But I find that about a lot of the people that are so, like, a lot of the people on the far left that are so vocal and that are really quick to try to shut down any conversation. And maybe that's why they try to shut down any conversation. They don't even know basic things about what they're talking about. That's the part I don't understand. I don't respect. I respect if you have different beliefs in me, but if you don't even know what you're screaming about, speaking of that, I have to bring this up because it kind of goes into what we're talking about. They like to be fed their information. They do not make any efforts to learn more. Yeah, that's true. There's like a laziness to it. And I was listening to Tim Pool earlier, and Tim Pool was like, actually, he was talking about the same thing that I'm about to talk about with you, which is just ridiculous. But Tim Pool was saying, like, when he's always been sort of into politics, and he's always sort of worked in that field. And he said, I used to say I wish more people would get involved in politics. And he goes, but now that's happened, and now I'm like, maybe more people shouldn't be involved in politics, because he's like, half these people, it's like they don't want to actually do the work to understand what they stand for. Like, they'll know like the surface information, they'll know the talking points, but if you ask the simplest questions, they lose their minds and they don't know how to answer you. Okay, this is hilarious. I just have to, this is so funny. It's actually not funny, it's kinda scary. So, we're gonna talk about Batman the comic book, and is Batman the comic book, like, a huge deal? No, but this is just little places where they inject this stuff into it's just the messaging of it all. So it says, in a new Batman comic, Batman flees Antifa and Black Lives Matter style riots in new comic. These places all have insurance. It's not my job to protect their profit margins. So Antifa and BLM has made it into DC Comics. So it says DC Comics continues to circle not only the creative drain, but the moral drain as well with their latest Batman comic. Batman Fortress #1, which sees Batman flee from an Antifa and Black Lives Matter style riot. I thought Antifa didn't exist. That's weird. The comic written by Gary Whitta with artwork by the boys Derek Robertson, sees Batman investigating an alien interference that causes global blackouts. As Batman attempts to figure out what is the cause of the blackouts, he is also called on to protect Gotham City after the entirety of the prisoners in Arkham Asylum are unleashed upon innocent citizens. Batman's first stop is a rooftop overlooking an electronics store that is being looted with neighboring buildings, some of them appearing to be apartments, being set on fire. The rioters are even shown waving blunt objects in the air. Batman rationalizes that he shouldn't put a stop to the rioters because there are more than likely bigger fish to catch out in Gotham City. Despite having no knowledge of where these big fish might be been given the power and communication blackouts. Witter writes Batman's interior monologue. So this is Batman's interior monologue about what he's seeing. Haven't seen a night like this in a while. Last time it was this bad was that damn fear gas in the water supply. Only so much I can do. Need to prioritize, hunt the big fish, protect the little fish. These places all have insurance. Not my job to protect their profit margins. And my Father's Day, the American dream used to mean something, an honest wage for honest work, food on the table, liberty, justice for all. Now it's an illusion, a carrot on a stick, attainable by a few, dangled out of reach for everyone. A bigger TV, a faster car, shiny objects to keep the masses distracted while the world burns down. You want to blame them for grabbing the carrot when the lights go out? Go ahead, but don't look to me to stop them. That's not why I do this. Oh, man. Batman has gone full woke. I love how so again, it's Batman. Who cares? It's a comic, no big deal. But this is the kind of messaging that gets injected, and this is what we heard all summer. Who cares about the looting? It's just people need bread. It's the voice of the unheard. It's the big box stores that are getting looted. They have insurance. When in reality, it was a majority small businesses that were getting looted and regular people that were being attacked. What's told by older lady at Waffle House night of Brandon sent out another stimulus check. um I was pretty shocked by that, but it's interesting. It's the same people, and how many people like passed away. They make it seem like all of this was these big giant businesses. They all have insurance. It's going to be fine. The truth of the matter is, you allow this stuff to go on, it's going to be the big businesses that pull out of those areas eventually, just like Walgreens did out of San Francisco. They pulled 22 Walgreens out of San Francisco because of constant smash and grabs. And it wasn't just these big businesses. I remember one guy during the George Floyd riots. He was an ex fireman. Tim talked about him as well. And I remember seeing that video where he was crying. He said, I'm a retired fireman. This was my dream to own a bar. And I built it all up. And now it's all gone. And people were coming and looting. I think it got set on fire. He eventually had a GoFundMe account. So I think he's okay now. There was another woman who was just in the street crying. It was her small business. I thought, Black Lives Matter, she said, in the street, the parents of Sequoia Turner, the 8-year-old little girl who is not with us anymore, at the hands of a Black Lives Matter protester. I watched the hour-long press conference with her parents from Atlanta, Georgia, and her mom is so distraught. She's like sitting down, she's crying. She said, I thought Black Lives Matter. Why did you do this? Batman will be trans soon. But is this not, this is the Democratic messaging. This is the messaging that we heard all summer, except when it's the 6th of January, all of a sudden now we care about rioting. Now it's bad. Now it needs to be stopped. But it wasn't just that. The protesters were going into residential neighborhoods. And if you heard, it said that an apartment building was on fire in that scene. I would think that's pretty important, the people in that apartment. And I do believe, you would have to fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure that during the 2020 riots, there was a building that was set on fire and they ended up finding that somebody was inside that building. Yes, they did. Outrageous threat. While Batman leaves the looters and rioters to burn down the city, he does randomly track down a number of Joker thugs who are threatening to kill an innocent family. He also randomly shows up at Gotham Harbor and stops a penguin from drowning a blonde woman. Well, that's nice. Nightcrawler was a good movie. Exactly, Braxton. That's why 2A is desperately needed. It's so funny because that's another reason why I wanted to bring that up, because the same people that espouse these messages and that excuse this type of behavior are the same ones who want to limit 2A. And I'll tell you what is a really interesting point. One of the reasons I became so pro 2A is because I was a single female living in Los Angeles, which is a Democrat run city. And how funny is it that Gavin Newsom, oh my gosh, even George Gascon, this super progressive DA in Los Angeles, both of them have come out and spoken about, gun control and limiting 2A and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, we can have that conversation when you stop supporting open borders, when you stop letting prisoners out of prison, and when you start prosecuting crime. So you want to excuse looting, you want to let prisoners out of prison, you don't want to build mental hospitals or psychiatric hospitals, you want open borders, you don't prosecute crime, and now you want to limit law-abiding citizens from their right to defend themselves. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Even Joe Rogan, hold on, he said something. I wrote it down. So Joe Rogan pointed out, he was like, he said something that I really like. Joe Rogan said, this country has a mental health problem disguised as a gun problem. And I do agree with that. And it is also important to know that most gun deaths are suicide. So they're not killed at the hands of other people. We also have more guns than people in this whole country. So if we had that big of a gun problem, I think we would see a lot more casualties. 150 plus people a day die from fentanyl overdose, which is coming over our southern border. That's why I think it's quite funny that we're going to have a wide open border and then have a conversation about limiting 2A. But should we be surprised? Because also when we were told that we need to get our get our little pokes in order to go back to work, our border was also wide open. That doesn't make sense either. So really, are we that surprised? No. And this is interesting. I think I saw this on, maybe it was on Tim Cast. Why have I been watching so much of Tim Pool lately? I don't know. He just always pops up on my YouTube homepage. I'm being algorithmically harassed by Tim Pool's channel. Is that a word? Now it is. But they were talking about the mental health and a lot of these shootings. And this woman was on the show. I don't remember her name, but she was an older woman. And I never thought about this before, but she brought up the fact. I don't know if you remember around Columbine and sort of earlier in the days when these things would happen, a lot of the conversation would be around mental health and medications that people were on. And we just stopped having that conversation altogether. Let me know if anyone remembers that. But I bring that up too. I'm going to try to say this without being like too disturbing. So we have more information on who this individual is. I don't want to say the name of the person. So this is from the Daily Wire. So this is the individual who attacked the Texas elementary school, Robb Elementary. And it says a highly disturbing video has emerged showing the man who shot up a Texas elementary school last week holding a bag of blood soaked dead kitties. The video shows the 18-year-old Latino shooter who murdered 19 children smiling while holding up the bag, according to video footage obtained by the New York Post, which was so graphic that the publication had to blur the bag. The attacker is seen smiling with undated footage while sitting in the passenger seat of his pal's car, holding up a clear plastic bag with at least 2 cats inside the bag. The sicko was previously rumored to have a fascination with off cats and had threatened to kidnap, kill, and R word girls who shunned him online. David Trevino Jr., who was related to the shooter's grandmother by marriage, told the New York Post that the attacker was known for harming animals. The shooter was known for hurting cats. He liked hurting animals. I'm told he offed the cats and carried around the bags of bodies for bleeps and giggles. The video shows he was not right in the head. He continued, he's not all there. The video raises all sorts of red flags. Hurting animals in the state of Texas is a felony, a charge that would have automatically barred the attacker from being able to purchase the guns that he used during the tragedy. He would go to the park and try to pick on people, and he loved hurting animals. One of the attacker's high school classmates said in an interview, I remember there was one time I saw him beating a little dog. A second classmate made similar claims, saying that the attacker would hurt animals and that he was not a good person. The attacker was a boy who was not bullied. He would try to pick on people and fail at it, and it would aggravate him. A lot of people knew him. We knew he wasn't mentally healthy, and a lot of people could agree that we probably should have said something. This is what is so angering. First of all, it sounds like he did this to animals quite often, which, like the article pointed out, is a felony. So he could have been away if this was reported. But it seems like it was well known that he was not okay in the head as far as threatening people. I believe that's illegal as well, threatening people like that online and harming animals. All of those things could have been reported. And it's really sad too. I remember when I was in high school, there was this guy that he kind of scared me, but he was known for, he was probably a minor at that time. Um, Trying to think at what point you. Well, anyway, I was in high school, but I wonder how much of this is on record as well. He was pretty chummy with the FBI. There was a kid that I went to high school with, and he really creeped me out. I don't remember if he ever harassed me. I think he said maybe a few nasty things to me, but he would say really nasty things to women and threaten their safety. And he did it a lot. So one day, a few of us, we kind of rounded up and we all went to the counselor's office and we all made statements about him. We all wrote out statements. There were like 6 or 7 of us, and the kid got expelled from school for just making threats and stuff like that, which I don't know what would have happened in his case. A friend of his was interviewed recently and also indicated shooter was a bully and killed small animals. That's one of the biggest signs. Like if you see a small kid like hurt animals, that's not a good sign. He's not a small kid, but all right, you all. Well, I think I'm gonna hop on that note. All right, I will see you all later. Oh yeah, I used to do that all the time. Oh no, I used to do that a lot, and what I found what was really disappointing is that a lot of people won't do anything. A lot of people they'll see something happen, and when it comes time to actually say something or do something, a lot of people I think are scared and they won't do anything, they won't say anything. Is what I have learned, because there was another instance later on in my life, and there were girls that wouldn't come forward. There was another instance later on in my life that it was in a workplace, and our boss was saying some very nasty, nasty things about women, which is so inappropriate. And a lot of them were complaining about it. They didn't feel like they were being treated right. But then when it came time for us to go above his head and make a record of it, no one would do anything. Okay, I'm leaving. All right, I'll see you all late. Ooh, here. I'll see you all later. Have a Taco Tuesday. Eat some tacos. I might have some tacos. See you later, guys. Bye.